Hey everybody, and welcome to this episode of Puff Puff Planted. I'm here with Brian Shariak from 11-time High Time winning I can't even say it. Can you help me with
It's a tongue twister. 11-time Cannabis Cup award-winning brand here in Michigan, family-run business. It's me and my wife, and surviving the corporate structure of cannabis.
It's been quite the exciting role for you. I'm sure. We've got the wife on board helping you out. What role are you holding in the company? Is it jack of all trades, or?
I'm part-time in every aspect of the business and full-time. Do a little bit of everything. We're building out the structure now more, expanding here in Michigan. From the processing standpoint, we've expanded our square footage, so that's where the team's growing now. So, accounting, sales, processing, metric, stickers, I'm doing it all right now. But that's where, as the growth happens within our business, now you can bring on people too.
Yeah, that's important because once you get to a certain point, you can't do it all, and then your quality starts to take a dip.
100%.
It's a fast moving train on the way down.
You know how it is too. Running a business, it's definitely has its pros and cons. As
many.
And like the gentleman was saying here, what are you doing on the weekend? There ain't no weekends. Yeah. It's 7 days a week.
24/7.
Yep.
You try so hard to get in, and then there's no way to get out.
It's a vicious cycle for sure. And that's where, I got two kids at home too. So, playing the dad life too. Like, after this, I'll go home. My daughter's up till 6 o'clock. I spend 2 hours with her, spend an hour with the wife, eat dinner. Then I'm doing paperwork at the end of the night.
Yeah. So what goes into being an 11-time winningest brand here in Michigan?
Blood, sweat, tears, stress, anxiety, depression. No. What goes into it? When I started doing cannabis 11 years ago, I've been in the cannabis space for 11 years now, going on the 12th. I originally started as a grower, got into it, believed in the medical side of it, and really dove into the medical side to help patients. Obviously, as the market progressed, we progressed as well with it. Mm-hmm. But edibles, I never wanted to do them. Everybody was doing them, but they sucked.
I remember way back in the day. I mean, we go back 12 years together.
Oh, pretty much.
But you had like the first cart that was really, it was like the
all gold,
yep, all gold. It was
bougie as shit. Custom packaging before everyone was doing it. And yeah, going from the edible standpoint, even the carts, every cart, I'm a cannabis connoisseur myself. Mm-hmm. I've been smoking, 20 years now, I guess you would call it, since I was a kid. I didn't say that. Sorry. But yeah, that's where, as a cannabis connoisseur, I seeked out the best. If I'm going to spend my money on it, I want it to be good. What's the point of wasting hard-earned money? When we were younger, mm-hmm. We didn't make as much as we did, and to spend $100 on something that tastes like crap, what's the point? So that's where I really set out as a connoisseur in the growing phase. 4 years into growing, I said, well, what's the difference between me and you? Mm-hmm. You're going to grow GG4. I'm going to grow GG4. Well, the guy at the store is going to buy it from you for $1,000 and buy it from me for $800. What's the difference? Yeah. So that's where I really recognize from the business aspect, branding. And that's kudos to my wife too. She had her own company at the time. It was a premium yoga gym bag company out of California. And I said, how are you charging $600 a bag?
Dang.
Yeah. At that point I was like blown away, and I was like, so I'm going to go high end. Everyone's doing the street cred. Everyone's doing this street branding. Nothing to it, nothing against it. Everyone has their place, but we wanted to do something different. And that's where the first brand we did really high-end gold, black branding. Back then, that's what was cool and hip. Now everyone's doing that. Mm-hmm. So leading into the follow-up of the connoisseur side of cannabis cups, I really seeked out to make something that I actually believed in and I actually enjoyed. Because at the end of the day, I'm a snob when it comes to stuff. Oh. Back in the day, you know how it goes, even where we used to go out to where we used to go to eat. Mm-hmm. Same thing through and through my life. That's where it goes into my brand as well. I eat, sleep, breathe this brand. if a product's out on the market that you guys carry as well, and across the state of Michigan, it's because I believe in the flavor. I believe in the taste. I've R&D'd it hundreds of times with these hands.
So you've got the hash rosin and distillate gummies.
Yep.
Rewind back to when I first started talking to you about Afternoon Delite.
Yep.
When we brought it into our store first in Whitmore Lake.
Yep.
A good friend of mine who I did not know was a cannabis consumer.
Yep.
He said, you got to get these chocolate bars.
Yep.
They're Afternoon Delite. And I'm looking around everywhere. I'm like, what the heck is this? And then I finally get a contact. I think you actually reached out to me
Yep.
when we were sitting in Flint, and you had your brand now, like Afternoon Delite, and I said, "Is this the chocolate bar?"
Yeah.
So, did you have chocolate prior?
We did chocolate a long time ago. Probably transitioned, call it from caregiver to being a caregiver for 11 years. Well, not 11, but starting of it. Transitioning legal, we did it. Chocolate's very temperamental. Scalability, it's a lot of equipment. Let's call it 30 grand in a chocolate temperer. Molds,
Wow.
heating, cooling. So that's where I decided, as a self-funded family-run business, no outside money. It's just been us and the wife. Mm-hmm. So everything we've flipped and kept going, it's because of we've flipped and kept going.
Is the shelf life different on those?
Shelf life is if you stabilize it properly.
Okay.
From the chocolate side, if it's tempered right and it gets that snap, it'll last forever. Well, I don't want to say forever, but it'll last longer.
Okay.
But if it's not, you'll notice chocolate turns white and it starts, I forget the terminology on it, but it loses its snap. It's not properly tempered. So then the chocolate's going to start degrading. So from a new market standpoint, let's call it 5 years, going 6 years now of metric, it wasn't worth the risk from a business standpoint. So prior brand, we had gummies. We had really good gummies, and we kept going with that. I R&D'd the formulation probably 400 times at this point.
So what goes into R&D of a formula? Or I guess give us a rundown of what R&D is. Are we just eating corn syrup in the back office? Or are we licking spoons, or what are we doing?
It's a mixture ratio of, so there's 3 parts to it. Pretty much what you're saying, yes. But there's 3 parts to it, to where, you got the corn syrup side, balancing the blooming of the gelatin, which if you don't bloom the gelatin long enough, it's not going to stabilize, then it's not going to harden the proper way at the end product.
What's blooming? Is it like agitating it? So it's
Simple layman terms, you put gelatin in some water and let it soak up the water.
okay. I wasn't sure.
Confectioner term, blooming.
Gotcha. Okay. And then you have obviously pour that into the specific molds that you go through. And
So that's where even our molds. I wish I would have brought one to show them as well. Our molds are 3D custom printed molds. So being self-funded, molds are about $185 a pop per mold, and there's, call it 100 cavities in a mold. To scale to where we're at today, we're doing some 45, 50,000 gummies a day.
wow.
So just do the math there. You're talking almost 50 grand in molds. So what I did early on, scaling into the legal market, I 3D printed the molds myself, and 3D prints are about $1.50 to $2 a pop. Well, if I needed to make 9 sets of, we call them negatives because they were put in a box where you pour silicone in them, which is your mold, it would have cost me 10 grand just in that. So what I ended up doing is I got 52 of them printed. I poured a rosin cast over them, made a negative, and then made another rosin cast positive and sanded each one of those positives down in my back deck for about 4 days straight with a belt sander.
Wow.
Acted like I was a DJ at night, turning the knobs, getting into it. Lost my mind for about 4 days, but that's how much I'm into this business. Is everything I do is on a budget, but at the end of the day, I care about it.
What would you say is the biggest change that you've seen from when the inception of Afternoon Delite and the gummies to where they're at today? I know you recently, was about a year ago, you came out with a hash rosin gummies.
Yeah.
But like just kind of like the market trends you've
The
seen.
market trends. If you told me, you told me 5 years ago where the market price would be for wholesale gummies, I would have told you I would have never done it. Because it's bottomed out.
Yeah.
It bottomed out to nothing. And the great thing that I attribute to us being self-funded, but also family run, we run lean. And last year was a survival. The last year the market crashed to nothing. And
That was crazy.
We lost a good chunk of funding, our own funding because of it, because the prices tanked and we had a bunch of inventory stocked up at that price and got to compete. So, the difference between the two now. So we've expanded the portfolio. We were just gummies, let's call it 4 years ago. And as the market grew, more people were doing gummies. So for me to go to you, Mike, hey, I got gummies. Well, there's 32 other brands. What makes you special? Well, I could tell you my story. That might get you. But at the end of the day, it's a competitive price advantage nowadays in our market. So that's where we had to broaden our SKUs, broaden our flavors within it too. When we first originally started gummies, we were in blue raz, watermelon, grape, and orange. I don't do grape. I do watermelon now, but I've tweaked the flavor 4 times now to where we're at today. Blue raz has now morphed into blue lemonade, which is our award-winning blue lemonade. 3 times, well, technically 5 times with all the trophies in blue lemonade.
So that was an accident, just kind of morphed into it.
That was a stoner moment of sounds really good. I'm going to try this flavor out. And it was a hit.
Nice.
And even with our previous cannabis cups too, we used to have Oreo cheesecakes. So it was an Oreo cheesecake.
You telling me about that.
Yep. So it was an Oreo cheesecake in a jar. We can't do it now because we can't have refrigerated items. That was just me walking through Myers one day, smoked too many joints, and
picked up a cheesecake.
Yeah, picked up a cheesecake and go, I can make this medicated. And that won me 3 cannabis cups. So
hey, is that, what's the analogy? It's copy it, but just do a little bit better.
Yeah.
So hey,
pretty much. I added THC.
Yeah.
So that's
sold.
Yeah. So that's kind of, what took us off. And, it hasn't been all, rainbows and puppies. It's definitely had its battles in the last 5 years. There's some not good players in this game that take advantage of small people. Again, luckily I've been lean, but if it wasn't for our branding, if it wasn't for the continuous wins, personally, mentally, I probably would have quit. Just because it's
tough.
Yeah.
I think 36 different brands was a little light. I think there's a few thousand out there now.
Yeah.
It's
crazy.
I mean,
like the conversation we were having just prior, call it 250 brands in a store.
It's
what?
It's too much. It's too much variety for people to pick from.
The problem with consumers nowadays is you can't give them any options. They get overwhelmed.
Well, it's like watching Netflix. I can't watch a show anymore because growing up, it was what was on is what you're watching.
You didn't have a choice to rewind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You found it and you watched it.
How old we are now.
Yeah, you're stuck watching it. You might watch the same thing 10 times, but you're still happy because it's what you got. Now I've thumbed through channels for an hour before I find something, and then
you're like, I'm going to bed.
Go to bed.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, forget it.
Same with the wife. We'll sit there and go, let's watch a TV show. We'll find something. And I go, you find something because I don't know what you want to watch.
It's got to be tough for the new consumers that come into the market as well because they walk in and they're just like, what the heck? Where do I start? And it's like, do you want the popcorn? Do you want the edible? There's so many things now.
And that's the thing that I think we lack in the industry as the producers and retailers is the education bit. That's one thing that I've always kind of pushed, even with my old brand, was we used to lab test before it was cool. Like that was always the line. Like, we're lab tested. No one else does this.
Iron Labs was like the first.
Iron Labs. That was it. That was them.
Yep.
And that's where, shout out Mike.
Yep.
But that's where back in the day, that was a selling point, because we cared, back then it was medical patients. So everyone didn't do that back then. But that's where tailoring that from an education standpoint to what we were talking about, the education in the market isn't there. Everyone's over about profit right now. And I see this transitioning in the next, let's call it a couple, 18 months, 2 years, 3 years max. People are going to really get the education part, the different terpene profiles, terpene counts. Right now, what are they coming and asking for?
The
most potent.
Yeah, THC percent.
How much milligrams is in that? 200? I'll take that.
Yeah.
But then that's where, to segue into what your point was about the hash rosin gummies. So we do 2 lines. We got our distillate gummies. We have our hash rosin. So for people that don't know what hash rosin is, hash rosin's a much cleaner process in the post-processing point from our side. It's made with water and ice. So where let's call it a live resin, is made from a butane propane solution that then is boiled off clean because it gets tested. No hate on BHO or live resin. It's still got its benefits, but from a process standpoint, it's water and ice, and that's it. So going back to the medicinal side, going back to the terpene side, the terpene profile is still stuck in the hash rosin. So when I first started doing it, the hash rosin formulations, I was like, is this market going to be this? Are people going to catch up with it? And I think we're like 3, maybe 4 brands in the gummy market right now that do hash rosin. I think we were the second brand to do it let's call it, I don't know, was that almost 10, 12 months ago now?
Yeah.
More people are doing it now because there's a market for it. But with that being said, the hash rosin side, the terpenes are preserved in it, where distillate, they're not. So you're getting that psychoactive effect. You're getting that sleepy or the energetic or that cerebral focus from the hash rosin. When I made my first batch and I, R&D'd it, I've been making gummies for 7 years, and I go, holy shit, these are pack a punch. And I'm taking 10 milligrams of this to 10 milligrams of that, and you notice a difference.
Oh yeah, it's a much cleaner, in my opinion. It's a much cleaner high. And although I feel for me, it might take a little longer in some cases.
The onset?
Yeah,
it does.
Takes a little bit longer.
I noticed that too.
But it's I don't get the anxiety afterwards either, because for some reason when you get the distillate, from my experience, you're getting a lot of the undesirables too, like the fats, waxes, and stuff. And it's as much as you can get out of it. There's still some residual left behind, but it's such a cleaner taste.
Agreed.
And you can definitely tell.
Oh, well, and I think that has to do with our body and our gut biome too. Essential oils and fruits we break down essential oils differently from the body standpoint too. So that's where distillate doesn't really have that. It has more of your fat, lipids, fats, like you said, left over. Yeah, it says it's 93%, but there's still something left.
Yeah, there's still a little bit there.
So that's where, we transition to hash rosin, and in all honesty, that's probably 60% of our production capabilities now, or throw output is hash rosin.
It's wild though, because hash rosin, I've only seen it done when it's done through fresh frozen. I've heard of people doing trim runs if they can. It's because it's very laborious to do it.
It'll give you more of an earthy taste.
Yeah.
More of that chlorophyll taste with the trim run.
But it's not scalable really. I mean, because you're filtering so much more.
Yeah.
Particulates.
The returns
garbage
are way less.
Yeah.
So that's where the price differential in our distillate lineup and our hash rosin is more cost effective or costly to you, the stores, but also to the consumer as well, because it costs more per gram for oil for us to infuse it versus distillate.
But even the prices in the store right now for a distillate gummy versus a hash rosin gummy, it's not like it's astronomically more, because the amount of product that you're putting in to make a hash rosin gummy is substantially more than what you're using for on the distillate gummy.
100%. Probably, if you had to do a ratio, you take 100 pounds to make distillate, you're getting call it a 12 to, we can have some critics on returns, but let's call it a 10 to 15% return rate. If you're good, probably 7 to 8. Hash rosin, you're 2, 3, 5% return. So it's definitely a big difference. But like you said, I noticed the taste. I noticed the effects as well. It's different. Like you said, it's a different clarity too. I feel like consumer here of my own product, because I R&D it, I favor our hash rosin gummies over anything now, because it's just, I feel more focused. I feel cleaner, and I don't get that edible hangover the next day.
Now, when you're doing the hash rosin gummies, is that all single source, or is it are you doing it with multiple different batches? Or?
It's multiple different batches because it's a food grade side. So to do it from a small standpoint business, it's hard to strain specific it. It costs more. The prices would probably double if I did that. Just because of what it takes to make a batch, but then also the marketing, but also the packaging. So to do it per strain right now is tough. Yeah, but we will keep it indica sativa hybrid. Okay. So we will keep it separate like that. We are going to start actually launching a pure indica sativa hybrid hash rosin line.
Oh, wow.
So we are in the works of that. That's something that actually we haven't talked about. That is in the works. Hoping to launch that hopefully the end of the year. It from the back end side, the consumers don't really realize how much work gets put into making these products. That's something that as a business owner now, but also a manufacturer, it's a lot of back end work. I go to these farms and source this material. I got to get it shipped through a secure transport to my facility. I got to get it tested. I got to get it made. I got to package it. I got to sticker it. And then it goes to you. And then you got to do your thing. And then you got to put it on the floor just to get it into the consumer's hands.
So you're washing this yourself. You're not buying crude,
No, so we actually have a strategic partnership with a washing plant.
Okay.
With our new expansion, we are putting in our own wash plant.
Okay.
So what I do is I'll source the material. Mm-hmm. I'll go to these farms, pick out the trim, do all that. And then they wash it for me, and we'll do either a split or I pay them for the fee.
Okay.
So that way I have more control of cannabis connoisseur side of things. It is farm to table, it's just not from our table yet to there, which that is part of our next phase. Like we've talked about for the processing side, that is our next phase of expansion, is to do everything in-house. Again, being self-funded, you're talking $100,000 and $150,000 worth of equipment right there.
Yeah, it takes time to get everything done through licensing as well. I mean, it's much faster than it used to be. I mean, when pre-qualified for us our first time, I think it was like almost a year and a half.
Yeah.
It just took forever.
Yeah.
But the CRA has done a good job at speeding that up and getting the right resources to get it done. But there's still a lot of loops you got to jump through because it's an evolving and emerging industry. So there's 100%. New rules that are added on each month.
You know from the retail and me from the producer, it's it's part of doing business in the legal cannabis market. Mm-hmm. Is it excessive sometimes? Yeah, I think it is to a point, but it puts in the safeguards to protect the consumer as well. Yeah. So, everyone likes to cut corners in some aspect, and it allows people to not cut corners. So do I appreciate it? Yeah. Does it suck sometimes? Yeah.
It's a give and take.
Yeah, it's a love-hate relationship, legal cannabis.
I couldn't agree more. So back to the scalability or scale platform and the current position which you're at. We're growing in Michigan. You're just at one processing center for the state of Michigan. Are you looking to go outside of Michigan? Or?
Yeah, we are. With the Cannabis Cups opens up doors. Being recognized as 1 on 11-time Cannabis Cup winning brand. I think we're 9 in edibles and 2 in actually vape pens. So we are actually going to relaunch our vape pens here real soon. It's, coming to the scalability, timing, money, funding, all that. It, costs money, right? But I think we're the most awarded edible company in the state of Michigan. So that right there gets recognized by itself. Obviously, everyone knows High Times. They've been around 30, 40, 50 years now. Mm-hmm. So to win that award, 11 times, we just won 2 this past July. I think we won 3 last year. It opens up doors, but I'm also pretty heavily connected in the cannabis space. Like we had the brand at one point out in California as well for a little bit, but then being self-funded, we picked and choose where we wanted to really land our roots. And California was 3 times the price, and born and raised here in Michigan. We came back here full tilt. I actually moved the wife back here from California because we had a place there. And, Sheila, I was traveling back and forth to California every 2 weeks. It seemed like on a plane. Every 10 days, I think it got to. And it just became too much trying to balance the brand in both spots being just me.
Yeah. It's tough, though. You made it through COVID, and you had a lot of the new growth on the doorstep during COVID, and then you couldn't get packaging, and then you couldn't. It just was a constant.
That was a constant battle. That'll be probably one of my biggest business experiences I'll ever pass on to my children is, the struggle during COVID. Yeah. We were allowed to stay open as an essential business, but at the same time, getting packaging, getting sugar. Yeah. Like getting sugar during COVID was like impossible. I had to go to every Myers around and buy sugar because my supplier couldn't get it to me.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's
good thing it was a toilet paper you were throwing in there. You've been out.
It was nuts. But that's where, going back to what you're asking about other states. Yeah, we're pursuing a couple licensing deals in other states.
Okay.
I think right now we have I think we have like 6 different states on the table.
Wow.
We got New Jersey. We're looking at Massachusetts. Florida's always been in the talks, but Florida regulations kind of funny. We're heavily pursuing Missouri here right now. Arizona's in the works. California's always out there. I got good connections from my time out there through all the years. And then we actually got an international deal that we're waiting to pursue out of Barbados, which Barbados is kind of one of those things that a lot of people don't really know about. It's the first import-export license in the world.
Wow.
So I can bring in product from Canada and I can ship it out to Greece. I could ship it out to Spain.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Just
so
thinking of that.
It's why
I've heard of other markets. I think it was like mostly for hemp that are doing
correct.
The import.
It's the first THC Delta 9 license allowed to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's going to be a wild adventure. I feel like Pablo Escobar sometimes, where I want to fly in the plane from Canada to Barbados to bring in a couple tons of weed, and just to do it one time, just to say I did.
Drop them in the water.
Yeah. Well, it'd be expensive, but yeah. But if you told me that 11 years ago to where this market is now, but where the opportunities have come to, I'd tell you no. It would take forever to get there.
Yeah.
It's opened so many doors. I've met so many people, a networker guy myself. I know people across the country, operators across the country. And, cannabis it's not just us in Michigan. Cannabis as a whole, it's an emerging market, but also everybody wants to get into it.
Yeah.
And it's tough from every aspect, from the grower to the processor to the retail side. Everyone's fighting for that jockeying position because, let's be real, mine in your lifetime, there ain't going to be another industry like this.
It's crazy. Well, you see some of these new brands that come in, and everyone's trying to copy each other.
It's sickening.
The infused pre-rolls you see, I don't really want to throw any brand names out there, but I'm starting to look at them. I'm like, these are the same design. The jars look the same
jar.
Everything.
It's probably the same producer.
I don't know, but it would be so tough for someone to come into the industry right now and really try to make waves because you've got these cities that everyone has a following where they're used to going. That's their shop, and I don't even see how a corporate company could come in and buy any of these stores and operate them because Michigan, I feel, did it right when they kind of slowly rolled out the regulations to kind of keep some of the corporate money out and keep some of the local guys in.
Yep.
But I'd be curious to see how any big mergers in Michigan would go because it would be tough.
They've happened. They've happened.
Yeah.
Without pulling brands out and people, they're not working though.
Yeah, exactly.
I think a lot of people are consolidating in panic because last year's market crash. Let's be real, the market crashed last year.
Yeah.
Last year's market crash hurt a lot of big people. You got a lot of what do we got? 9 companies in receivership. And it's not, me and you, we're small compared to these guys, right? These guys are in receivership for wasting money. One group was burning $3 million a month. Burning. You give me $3 million, I'll show you something else. We'll build this out to 10 states, and this is just in Michigan. So I agree with you. Michigan did it right and wrong in some aspects, but it kept it to small, local. But that's where this is why we work together, planted an Afternoon Delite, linking arms with the right people, linking arms with the people that have the right intentions of the industry, because these big guys don't care. It's about profit. It's about shares. It's about, the more I learn about big business as a small guy, it's just about a manipulation of data. And it's not, they can do $100 million in rev, but what's their bottom line? Oh, it cost them $99 million to make the 100. So you made $1 million?
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't make any sense.
No, and that's where, going back to what you were saying about people copying each other and from the aspect of branding and products. Listen, at the end of the day, it's an open market. We're a capitalism country. It's going to happen, but what sets you apart? And that's where, going into our branding and going into the cups, there's not a more awarded edible company in the space right now than us in Michigan. We just won 3 times best gummy in the state of Michigan for the 3rd time in a row. That's the first in the industry across the whole country right now. And that's something that, pushes me and keeps my passion going in the tough days. Being a business owner's not always the funnest, love my job, love what I do. Some days it's sucks. Some days it's not, why do I do this? Right. But at the end of the day, I'm in control of my future just like you are. And it's opened up doors with the cannabis cups. Going back to what different states we're talking about, but also our branding. No one's really doing our branding from that aspect, which hopefully no one does that. But no one's doing the beach vacation vibe. Listen, the economy it is what it is. Prices are up on everything. Our goal is to strive to give people a relaxing vibe from the branding, but also the product.
You got to try to appeal to all different demographics,
all
as well,
different,
which is tough.
And going back to segue back to what you were saying about walking in and being overwhelmed. What we do from our branding, the new consumers trust our brand name because they're like, oh, that's honestly, we hit the soccer moms. Soccer moms love our branding.
It's like the Head Smasher 2000.
Yeah,
it's like
and that's
some of the brands you read like, whoa, it's like
and listen, they'll get the younger crowds, they'll get the heady guys, they'll get the hippie kids. We appeal to all, and that's where I'll credit the wife. She's our marketing officer. I'll credit her to really honing me in from 10 years ago when I met her, when you met her as well. High end branding. It don't need to be flashy. It don't need to be Gucci, but if the branding's clean throughout, it really helps the brand grow naturally. I don't have a huge marketing budget. I don't have 150 grand to put up a billboard on every corner like some of these brands. But at the end of the day, our branding sets us apart when you walk in the store. You walk in the wall, it blends. As a consumer, I hate it. I hate walking into the store and seeing the wall of colors. Well, our colors are different. We got that beach branding with the beach vibe. We're really laying into that now as well. Where our new packaging, you put 5 SKUs up on your wall. It's a mural. It's a beach mural.
Well, it's cool because of Michigan too. We got the Great Lakes and kind of play off of words and the Afternoon Delite.
Correct.
Pretty sure everyone knows what Afternoon Delite is.
Can't say that. Will Ferrell, if you listen, come and holler. But yeah, that's where it appeals to everything. The Great Lakes. Long story short of the branding through and through of me, I met my wife on a cruise, middle of the ocean. And the ocean is our happy place. The Caribbean is our happy place. From a branding aspect, it's through and through from me personally as well and my wife. So that's where we really laid into, we had the brand out in California. We bring that Cali vibe, but also that ocean vibe. And the brand's evolved many times. Every time I do new packaging, I'm like, all right, we did that one. Now what's the next? I'm never happy with it because I always want it to evolve as a brand as well.
Constant battle.
Yeah, mental battle.
even going back to the product that you're obviously constantly R&Ding, yep. I never realized how much goes into an edible because people are looking at the taste, the texture, the color, how it holds itself in packaging, how long
shelf life,
everything, yeah. and for getting so many samples just being in the stores, and everyone's like, try this, try that. I get copious amounts of unmedicated samples, and I can tell just by looking at one if it's going to taste good. Because it's almost like some of these I get, they're
janky looking.
Well, and it's almost like back in the day when you'd go to the bank with your mom or dad, and the teller would sneak you a little like Sunkist candy.
Yeah,
and it kind of takes me back to those days because some of them were great, and some of them were like, man,
who makes this?
Yeah, but
and they're opening up, like you said. There's 60, 70 different edible brands, 80 different edible brands.
And some were, you get a 200 milligram edible and your pack of 20, 10 milligrams each, or whatever it's 10, 20s, whatever it may be. I've seen differences in the consumption of them. I can eat 10 milligrams from one brand and then 10 milligrams from another brand will knock me on my socks. 100%. And so that's probably another battle you have to deal with as well.
Yeah. And listen, every consumer has a different gut biome, from a mechanics of our bodies. If you eat an edible on an empty stomach, it's going to hit you faster.
Yep.
You eat an edible after you just ate, probably not going to hit you. But that consumer experience is going to go, that edible didn't do anything to me. And they're going to come back to Mike and go, that edible sucked. Well, people don't understand that. And that's where, going into the biometrics of our bodies, that's where most people don't think that way either. They're like, I'm just going to get high. Let's eat some edibles.
And that's the tough thing too when consumers are asking you, well, how do you suggest consuming this?
Correct.
And then, like you said, different gut biome for everybody. But in your experience, would you say empty stomach, and
if you want to get rocked,
and then give it 30 minutes or so to kick in?
Everyone's got a different tolerance, so too.
Yeah.
So from the edible aspect, if you're a new consumer, if you're new out there, if you're a new consumer, cut a gummy in half and then cut it in half again. Mm-hmm. Wait 30 minutes.
You
don't feel it.
Take too much, but you can't take too little.
No. And that's where, one of our original taglines was ride the wave. Because if you over medicate on an edible, you just got to ride it out.
Yep.
And that's where we really, that's our two taglines is unleash your inner vacation, from the beach branding. And our original tagline was ride the wave it was embrace the wave, because all you can do is just sit back and embrace it.
Here's the second wave.
Yeah, whoa. But yeah, as a new consumer, start low, start small, and work into it. Because the problem with most new users and old users, the biggest story you'll ever get is, I don't like edibles. Edibles fuck me up. Mm-hmm. Well, when was your last edible? Well, my buddy Frank made these batches of brownies at his house. It's like, okay, but does your buddy Frank know how to homogenize edibles? What's that? Well, in layman terms is the edibles mixed throughout evenly. Instead of you biting this corner that's probably 1,000 milligrams and it rocked you and put you in a coma for a week, versus this one that didn't do anything to you, so you ate more. Mm-hmm. And that's where the evolution of edibles in the legal market, I really appreciate that too, because
dosing.
Yeah, dosing. Yeah. And that, don't get me wrong, listen, coming from the caregiver side to that, I was always precise on it. I always tested it, but really appreciating that as well, the dosing side, because of that. Everybody's story is, I hate edibles. I don't want to do them. They mess me up too much. Well, what's your experience? And I say 9 times out of 10 when I have that conversation with someone, well, it's my buddy made these brownies or my buddy made these edibles and it just smacked me. I don't want to do that anymore. I like weed. I'm like, I like flower. It's like, okay, well, here, try this. Take a half of one. Let me know what you think. And honestly, 9 times out of 10, they come back and buy our edibles.
Wow.
Yeah. It's, again, going back to the education side that we talked about earlier. The education side and the consumption side, it's not there yet. I think it'll be there. It's happening. And I think that's what sets brands apart too, is those education days as well. I think I would like to see more of that too. Because listen, at the end of the day, if we don't educate our consumers, they're just,
We try to do our best at the store level to educate the bud tenders and customers. The vendor days aren't just for freebie here or freebie there. It's I want customers to walk in the store and get more value in it when they walk in.
Correct.
So if they come in and buy a $10 edible, at least they get the experience of learning something while they're coming into the store and then going home. They go, hey, I bought an edible, but I also learned all these things about cannabinoids and for my next consumption method, or just give them more value. Because knowledge is power. It's valuable.
It is, and that's where when we talked about previously, like terpenes are going to be the thing here in the future.
Huge.
Yeah, and that's where some people.
I'm seeing it on flower more and more because people are getting more apt to showing the cannabinoid profile, terpene profile.
But the education of knowing what those terpenes do to you.
Exactly.
And that's where homeopathic side of life. People take essential oils other than medicine for those reasons. Mm-hmm. And cannabis has those essential oils in them. Yep. And that's where I truly believe, and that's why we're blessed from the hash rosin side to where that's taking off. That's where I believe the market is going to be that from an edible standpoint, either whether it's hash rosin or it's live resin, infused edibles, because the terpene profiles. And I think that's even for us, really getting into the science even more of it. And segregating and breaking down per strain is the goal to give those different effects. Let's just be real. This is going to go mainstream here soon. Mm-hmm. It's going to go pharmaceutical mindset. They're going to want the sleep. They're going to want the focus. They're going to want the chill. And how you achieve that is through terpenes. Mm-hmm. THC is THC.
the terpenes are going to accentuate that high as well. Yeah. I mean, some people are like, "Oh, I wanted to be sleepy." Well, you gotta have the right terpenes to go along.
Correct. But everyone going back to gut biomes as well. Everybody, essential oil reactions are different too. So where a GG4 might get you good and a purple punch might get me good, well, I'm going to give you that. And it's not going to give you that effect. And your GG4 is not going to give me that effect. So everyone's going to tailor to their individual needs. And that's where the education process is going to come in. And that's where the terpene profiles are going to, our future is, it's going to be that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what it has in store for all of us, because it's gonna weed out some of the people who are just going for volume versus quality.
Can't wait.
So well, I'll be interested, because I think the consolidations are happening, like you said, and they're gonna continue happening, because we've got over 1,000 stores and over 1,000 cultivation sites in Michigan. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And my fear is that they're going to start opting in more cities next to the cities that have opted in, and then they're going to start taking revenue away. It's going to take revenue away from those cities and those businesses, and it's going to be very disruptive.
And at the end of the day, these cities need to chill out. But also, I understand from their side, cities are businesses. Let's be real. Government's business. They don't care that they put 32 stores in Bay City.
Yeah.
They just want the licensing fee.
Yeah.
They don't care how disruptive it is. And that's the sad part. We need to work hand in hand, both sides of the aisles, our side and government.
I'd love to see them opt in and then just kind of spread the licenses throughout. Because like you said, there's 32 stores. There's a store every 100 yards. It's like, you can't even pick.
But as a
it's
consumer,
like walking into the store.
That's overwhelming.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You think walking in the store is overwhelming. Imagine having 25, 30 stores within walking distance of each other. That's tough. It is all going to be.
Do we need 1,000 stores here?
No. Yeah. I mean, we're doing delivery. I know we have a little over, I think it's 250, 270 mile radius of our 3 stores. And that's, do the circumference. That's a lot. It's like all of mid-Michigan.
But at the end of the day, there's 400 stores in that radius too.
Exactly. So, everyone's, it's a race.
That's one thing that, kudos to Planted too. Why we do so much business together with you guys as well. You guys do it different than most. From the marketing, one, caring about the patient differently, consumer differently, and also you'll service where you need to. Because listen, at the end of the day, like you said, there's 400 stores in that radius. What makes you different?
Yep.
Marketing and branding, but also the vibe you guys that you get in your guys' stores is, as the owner, as the sales guy that wears many hats, I've been to a lot of these stores. You guys have a different vibe than most stores. And obviously, not just trying to fluff it here, but it's a different vibe than most stores. It's cleaner. It's more professional. Listen, even your Flint store, when you guys remodeled it, like from where you started to where it is, it's a big difference.
Oh, night and day.
Yeah. And it's beautiful, and that's where, like you said, it's going to weed out certain people. And that's where,
because it kind of reminds me of automotive, when the dealerships also all of a sudden started putting money in, and then everyone was almost, from what I heard, they were required to do so much so much of a facelift, because you're walking in some of these dealerships and they got typewriters for freaking printers, and you're like, what is this? And they're printing it off.
Ford's like, hey, we don't like this. This ain't on brand.
But we'll wrap it up here. But we're excited to see what you guys have in store. It's been great working with you guys. I wish you guys nothing but the best, and I hope we're on the journey to grow with you guys in state and out of state.
That's the plan.
As long as we can.
Hey, it's all about communication and keeping the dream alive, right?
Yeah, and sticking together.
Yeah, as us small guys, like we said, that's what it's all about. That's why we do, the stuff we do with you guys, because obviously one, friendship here, but at the end of the day too, you guys, business side of the friendship side, you guys have a great store. So, it just makes sense to link arms with people
For sure. Great minds think alike, like they say. And, we've got the same goals and visions in mind. So let's keep it up.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, sir.